Hi everybody, this is Rob and Jay, and this is our 43-foot Bruce Roberts Ketch. If you've seen her before, she looks a little different now. She's covered in a bubble, and that's because it's December now. We're living aboard the first year in 2013. We're based just outside of Toronto, and it's about -5 degrees C, and the water has frozen up. We had a bit of a freeze last week, but it broke all up, and now we are back in the business of having to deal with the frozen Lake Ontario water. You can see the ducks over here. Still doing quite well. If you hear something in the background, you can probably hear water agitators. See, there's one on the boat over here. This guy over here on the houseboat's got a little bit of different design. He actually has a compressor that's blowing bubbles underneath his boat. This one is a propeller. I'll give you a little bit closer look on ours. And basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to bring water that's warmer from the bottom and agitate it and bring it up to the surface, and it stops the water from freezing around your boat. And it's actually quite efficient how well it does. It was thick enough that I had to chip the ice away quite, it took quite a while to chip the ice away this morning just so I could adjust these lines because I hadn't run it before. See if we can get a bit of a look. This is what they consider a bubbler, and the name's a little bit of a misnomer. This one is basically a propeller blade in the housing, waterproof of course. Runs on 115 volts, and it just keeps the water mixed up. And as you can see, we've got frozen around here. It's actually probably about a centimeter thick in places. Other spots, like on the slip across from us, where nobody's agitated the water, and there's a little bit of stuff like seaweed and stuff, so it's kind of gathered around there. That's probably about 6 to 8 centimeters deep right now, or thick now, and probably thick enough to walk on, but I'm not doing that. Probably a bad idea. And you can see the rest of the little bay here is frozen, but we are free. We don't have any water, any ice touching the hull of the boat at this point. So there you go. There's what the bubbler's all about. Now you can see normally we run one power cable going into the boat. We paid for some extra power this year. Normally you only get about 30 amps to work with. And we figured, especially for our first year, that's probably not a good idea because we didn't know how cold we were going to get. And we could have probably done it, but we would have had to suffer in other ways. We probably wouldn't have been able to run the water heater, entertainment system, whatever else once it got cold, because all our energy would go into heating. So what we did is we paid for 45 amps. Now with 45 amps, that doesn't sound like a lot, considering that most people's houses nowadays are 200 amp service, 150 amp service. We've got 45 amps, and that's it. We push that by 5 amps, breaker kicks out, and we're up and trying to get everything started back up. So makes you really aware of your power consumption, which isn't a bad thing. And you can see the bubble on the boat. That's just basically keeps the snow and ice and accumulated crap off the deck. We still have deck leaks, as you can see on the tow rail. We're only half painted there. The deck's only got one coat of primer on it. We got numerous holes in the deck that have been drilled, or that for mounting stuff that that have been removed for doing the refit. But you can see. There you go. Go around. We did the steps. I redid the steps this year. And we go around the back here. But basically, yeah, the bubble just keeps the weather off. We've had some pretty rad weather already this year. And had like 30 knot sustained winds for 2 or 3 days. Actually, you can hear that. If you heard something there, that's the ice cracking underneath the dock. There you go. And yeah, so it just basically keeps all the snow and rain and ice out of the cockpit, off the deck of the boat. Some say it actually acts as a bit of a buffer for the weather as well. It's, captures a little bit of warmth up there. It's also just nice to sit up there in the winter because it's actually quite warm. If the sun's hitting it, you can go up there in a t-shirt and, a pair pair of pants and, you know, hang out there and stuff. And it's not all that bad, actually. It's quite nice. So it's kind of a dual purpose thing. And here's our next door neighbor. They've done theirs professionally. I think they did it themselves, but they used the proper shrink wrap and the proper tooling. They've been doing this for a lot of years, so they've got the opaque stretch plastic is the stuff that's made for this. We're just using 6mm poly, like what do they call it, Super 6. It's generally used as vapor barrier, but you can still do the same sort of stuff with it, and it's cheaper to deal with, so it's not that bad at all. It took us about 3 days, if you go right from beginning to end, to actually do the wrap. The final stage, which is the scariest one, you actually have to get a blowtorch, and you shrink the plastic with a blowtorch to take the slack out of it, so now when the wind picks up, it doesn't flog around like crazy. It's crazy noisy when the wind is heavy and the plastic isn't stretched as much as it is right now. You can actually see spots where it is, you know, it's stretched quite tight. Other places a little bit baggy. Hey, you know, I'm working on my technique. What can I say? But anyways, there's just a quick tour. Oh, actually, one more thing. May as well while I'm here. Normally, you have a couple of spring lines for anchoring your boat and like a bow line and a stern line, which is what we've got over here. But because of the heavy weather we get in the winter, and I crushed the hell out of my buoys already, or my bumpers already, they're pretty mangled because we didn't get these other lines on in time before the nasty weather hit. So you can see the crossed lines here. That's actually loading up onto the pier next to us, so it keeps the boat off that off the finger, so it doesn't do quite as much. And it's kind of touchy though, because if you notice, that one's a little bit on an angle because we've got this big ass boat and our big ass boat pushing and pulling on this one pylon, and our neighbor here was actually tied up to this other pier earlier this season, but as you can see, didn't fare so well. They pulled that pier right over during a heavy storm. So they've tied off there as well, so they can still load it to some extent, but not as much as they could in the past. So they just moved their boat over, you know, to the other side of the slip here, just for that extra bit of security. But though, yeah, the weather gets pretty nasty. We get some deep freezes. The winds have been incredible so far this year. I expected some high winds, but we had you know, sustained winds. Like I said, 30-40 knots for a couple of days there. Jay got a little bit seasick over a couple of days, just sitting at our finger here. So it's quite the experience. But like I said, other than that little bout of seasickness, she's done really well, and so have we. And the cover hasn't blown away, and the cat is still happy, and so are we. We got our little spot here, so lots of work to do yet, but there you go. Quick tour of sailboat in the winter in Canada. All right, bye-bye for now.